You guys be careful.
All right, y'all, give me one more second. Record to the cloud.
You're gonna have to be careful with me. I gave my computer away to my granddaughter who's gonna go to college or whatever.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul. Welcome to our meeting tonight. We're on paper 49 tonight, the inhabited worlds. I think this is the fourth or fifth part of it, something like that. And we're on page 567 of the original book, paragraph 2. And this is paper 49.5, paragraph 22. So let's say a little prayer and we'll get started for the night. Father, thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for this wonderful revelation. Open our hearts and minds tonight that we might learn a little bit of something, share it with others. We thank you. We give you the praise in your son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen. Okay, we're ready to go. We're on the right slide too. So, y'all, I have to tell you something. I got flagged by YouTube the first time since I've been online from a comment that somebody left on one of our videos. Would you believe that? Inappropriate speech. I've never had that happen before, so I had to go remove it. So all you out there listening, if you make inappropriate comments, they do flag the video, so I have to go in and take them off.
You might mention what it was because it wasn't that serious.
Well, it was something I don't even remember now, dude. Do you remember what I told you? It was. It was something about somebody. Preachers taking money or something like that. I don't know. But
Was it
anyway,
me?
no, it was.
It was some of the comment.
It was one of the comments. It wasn't actually something in the video, and I have made comments in videos that it's sometimes it wasn't actually something in the video. I'm getting feedback. Do you hear that? Yeah, that's where it's maybe it's just my hearing aids. Okay, well, let's get started. Let me kind of bring us up to speed on where we were the last time. It seems like it's been so long since we talked about this, but we're on a section in the book about, let me go back here. It's on the inhabited worlds, or I'm sorry, planetary series of mortals. And you know, there were 7 different types. I wanted to bring this up because it's been so long getting through this section. The different types of mortal creatures studied from various viewpoints. And this is the viewpoints they were talking about: adjustment to planetary environment, brain type series, spirit reception series, planetary mortal epics, which is what the section we're in, creature kinship series, adjuster fusion series, and techniques of terrestrial escape. And we're on paragraph 5, or yeah, section 5, paragraph 22. Right. Let me bring it back up here a little bit so I can get back on my screen. Okay, so that's what this next, we were talking about planetary mortal epics. And what we were talking about is how the different types of humans, when you're born on a planet, depending on what epic it is on that planet, is going to determine what kind of human you're going to be. Because if you're born early, before the planetary prince arrives, you're going to be a more barbaric person than after the planetary prince arrives, or after Adam and Eve, or after a magisterial son, or whatever, which epic it is you're born in. That's going to determine what kind of person you are, right? Type of being you are. And that's what they're talking about here. Let's take the first one, dear. Why don't you take the very first one?
Life is initiated on the planets by the life carriers, who watch over its development until sometime after the evolutionary appearance of mortal man. Before the life carriers leave a planet, they duly install a planetary prince as ruler of the realm. With this ruler, there arrives a full quota of subordinate auxiliaries and ministering helpers, and the first adjudication of the living and the dead is simultaneous with his arrival.
So notice here, even with the very barbaric people, when the planetary princes finally installed on a planet, it takes about 500,000 years after human beings show up,
Fun.
right? With a long time. But those beings that are salvageable, that have died, sleep, and then the first adjudication takes place with the arrival of the planetary prince. Okay. And this is important because it shows us that even the most barbaric of the people that were on the planet the first 500,000 years before the prince came and his staff, even those types of beings can survive. And if they make a connection with the concept of God within their heart, then they can get a thought adjuster and they can survive and be taken up during the first adjudication. Okay, which I think is pretty important to know. All right. Gary, would you take the next one?
Okay, with the, hold on a second.
Emergence.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to, okay, with the emergence of human groupings, this planetary prince arrives to inaugurate human civilization and to focalize human society. Your world of confusion is no
Criterion
of the early days of the reign of the planetary princes, for it was near the beginning of such an administration on Urantia that your planetary prince, Caligasca, cast his lot with the rebellion of the system's sovereign Lucifer. Your planet was pursued. Your planet has pursued a stormy course ever since.
Okay. Okay, it's interesting. They said it near the beginning of this. This was 250,000 years, and they call that a beginning. Okay, so the planetary prince came, and after about 250,000 years, almost 300, then Caligastia rebelled, took the planet into rebellion, but they called that the beginning of the inauguration of the human civilization. So our first human civilization was better than 250,000 years ago. Okay. And that was the first civilization, you know. So when these people come along and say that the Babylonians created the first society, that wasn't the case. Okay, it was much earlier than that. So anyway, so Caligastia, when he rebelled and followed Lucifer, the system sovereign, that put us into rebellion. So our plan of this planet has been up since then. All right, Jane, would you take the next one, please?
On a normal evolutionary world, racial progress attains its natural biologic peak during the regime of the planetary prince. And shortly thereafter, the system's sovereign dispatches a material son and daughter to that planet. These imported beings are of service as biologic uplifters. Their default on Urantia further complicated your planetary history.
Okay, so wow, what was that? Did y'all hear that? Is it just my ears?
You're going to get flagged.
Yeah, really. So it was during Adam and Eve's arrival. That was our biologic peak of our society, or of our development of human beings. And the part of the mission of Adam and Eve was as a biological uplifter, and their children, after they had 1 million children, was to intermix and marry with the human races, and that would uplift our biology and our future individual beings tremendously. And unfortunately, that plan got ruined, right? So we got some of it, but not near as much as we were supposed to. All right, let's see. Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. When the intellectual and ethical progress of a human race has reached the limits of evolutionary development, there comes an infernal son of paradise on a magisterial mission. And later on, when the spiritual status of such a world is nearing its limit of natural attainment, the planet is visited by a paradise bestowal son. The chief mission of a bestowal son is to establish the planetary status, release the spirit of truth for planetary function, and thus effect the universal coming of the thought adjusters.
Okay, so that again, our planet is off kilter a little bit because we got a creator son instead of a magisterial son. And so when the creator son finished his bestowal, what did he do? He bestowed the spirit of truth on our planet and thus released the thought adjusters to come to all human beings after that. Okay, so this kind of misaligned us with how it's normally done. Now, we still have not had a magisterial son or a vernal son of paradise to do a bestowal on this planet, and that's yet to come. So hopefully a lot of this mess we got in our planet right now will be straightened out by them before the magisterial son arrives.
Can
And it'll be a spiritual mission.
can you explain to me? I kind of got the impression we got shortchanged, and then the planet is visited by a paradise bestowal son. Wasn't that Jesus? I mean, how much better
Paradise,
Jesus?
yeah. Normally that son is a magisterial son, not a creator son, though, Gary. Only one planet in our entire created local universe has the privilege of hosting a creator son, because there's only one creator son bestowal in each of the 700,000 local universes and the 7 super universes. So we
did well.
We did well. We got lucky, right?
Well, no, we're just so messed up that he was just, my God, what choice do I have?
Well, that may have been the case, but the thing is, his choice to come when he did probably had a lot to do with the fact that we were in rebellion and when we went into rebellion, and the progression of civilized society during the Roman times and the Jews during that period of time was ideal to host the creator son. That's where we got really, really lucky. All the stars lined up, as they say, and it was the perfect time for Jesus to say, or for Michael to say, this is the planet I want to use for my next bestowal, because their planetary prince defaulted, right? Their Adam and Eve defaulted, and they almost lost sight of who God the Father was until Melchizedek came. So because of the Melchizedek bestowal, it prepared the way for the period of time of Jesus. So it's hard to believe that the Roman Empire was the most perfect time for the creator son to come.
That's dangerous.
Because there was peace all over the world, okay? And there was a emergence of spirituality because of the Jews in the world, right? And if they would have studied their scripture the way they should have recognized Jesus as being their Messiah right off the bat. But the Messiah they were looking for was not Jesus. The Messiah they were looking for was a military ruler that would sit on David's throne. And that was not the mission of Jesus, was it?
That's right.
So he had to stay true to his bestowal to reveal the universal Father and the brotherhood of man to all mankind. And he did exactly that, right? I tell you what, this is nice because I've been recording these Jesus papers the last few weeks and reading this all over again, or listening to it 2 or 3 times, because it takes me 2 or 3 times sometimes to get the paper to come out right. But listening to this and they talk about this stuff, it just brings it all back to life, you know. So when you go back through the life of Christ, remember these little hints that they're talking about, you know. And when Jesus talks about the, you know, the 7 dimensions and the 7 super universes and things like that, remember this is from the beginning part of the book, you know. So we are really, really fortunate. So it was because Jesus came, we got the Spirit of Truth and the adjusters. Now on other planets, this happens when a magisterial son does a bestowal, just like Jesus did the bestowal. Okay, so ours is a little bit different, and it's going to tell us that here in another paragraph here. Let's go to the next one. I'll take this one since there's only 5 of us tonight. Here again, Urantia deviates. There never has been a magisterial mission on your world, neither was your bestowal son of the Avonal order. Your planet enjoyed the signal honor of becoming the mortal home planet of the sovereign son, Michael of Nabadon. And that can only happen one time in a local universe. So we are really, really fortunate. All right, dear.
As a result of the ministry of all the successive orders of divine sonship, the inhabited worlds and their advancing races begin to approach the apex of planetary evolution. Such worlds now become ripe for the culminating mission, the arrival of the Trinity teacher sons. This epic of the teacher sons is a vestibule, vestibule to the final planetary age, evolutionary utopia, the age of light and life.
Okay, now keep in mind, these different sonship orders that come to the planet are large. There's a large amount of time in between. Notice the planetary prince, when he first came, was 500,000 years from the beginning of mankind until he showed up, right? And then after that, it was another 300,000 years before Adam and Eve showed up, okay? So actually, it was more than that, I believe. But anyway, and then it was only 37,000 years ago, and between that and the time of Jesus, that Melchizedek came, because the light of God was getting dim and almost disappearing. So, and then when Jesus came, look how much time it was between the Caligasta betrayal and when he got here. That's, you know, 200 and something thousand years. So the arrival of our magisterial son, do you think it would be strange that it might be 200,000 years down the way yet? Not
No,
really. Yeah.
they don't have time X's.
No, they don't have to worry about, you know, when it is and when it's coming and all that time. And we have a lot of stuff we have to personally straighten out on our planet before this planet is ready for a magisterial mission, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
I mean, any way you look at it. So, and as far as reaching light and life, we're not even in the ballpark, are we? I mean, think of that. You know, they're talking about an evolutionary utopia. So we should have evolved to the point where the planet is almost perfect before the age of light and life starts. Okay. Now, why this is important in this paper is this: depending on when you were born on a planet, the influences of that planet is going to affect you individually. So if you were born in a planet of utopia, your concept of spiritual things and how life is and all that's going to be totally different than if you're born back in the barbaric times when you had to go out and kill and hunt every single thing you ate, right? Big difference. Okay, so that's what they're talking about in this paper and why they mentioned it. All right.
You got to remember, we're still in barbaric times.
That's right. We are.
We are by their standard, which is when women have equal rights with men. And United States can't brag because we just gave the women the right to vote, what, 100 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they
And
still
now
don't have all their rights, do they? I
go
mean, women
to
still
Saudi
don't have our,
Arabia.
yeah.
Go over to Saudi Arabia. Now that's counted as world. Now we like to kick their butts out of there, but they won't leave the world.
Yeah.
So we're stuck. So we're barbarians
We're still
based
considered
on
on other countries. That's right.
yeah. Go look
Then
in
it's,
Asia. I said
yeah,
they're all over the place.
yeah, it's all over. It's everywhere. The classification of human beings will receive particular attention in a preceding paper. I read that so that you get a long one, Gary.
Did you ever hear that song, Why Is Everybody Always Picking on Me? Okay. Let me see what I can do. 49, 529. Okay. Creature kinship serial. Planets are not only organized vertically into systems, constellations, and so on, but the universe administration also provides for horizontal groupings according to types, series, and other relationships. The lateral administration of the universe pertains more particularly to the coordination of activities of a kindred nature which have been independently fostered on different spheres. These related classes of universe creatures are periodically inspected by certain composite cores of high personalities presided over by long, I'm going to have to.
Experienced phenolators, that's it.
Okay,
Long
my-
experienced phenolators.
my
Cut it off.
page run out. Oh,
Yeah.
there it is. I
Yeah.
can figure out how to do it. Okay.
Okay. All right. So they're talking about a vertical and horizontal grouping of planets and types of planets. So there's multiple ways that the constellations group planets together as to what level they're on and what types of beings they have and all that stuff. So it goes up and down and side to side, right? So every type of individual planet is grouped in with other planets of like kind. All right. Jane, would you take the next one?
These kingship factors are manifest on all levels. For kingship serials exist among non-human personalities as well as among mortal creatures, even between human and superhuman orders. Intelligent beings are vertically related in 12 great groups of 7 major divisions each. The coordination of these uniquely related groups of living beings is probably affected by some not fully comprehended technique of the Supreme Being.
Now, why would it be the Supreme Being? Because the Supreme Being is the God of experience. So each one of these differing orders would experience life in different ways. Okay. So their experience going into the Supreme Being gives a likelihood of the different types of orders of creatures, not only normal mortals, but superhuman orders as well. So they're divided and classified according to that. So when we get to the mansion world, because we will be new arrivals of Urantia beings, we will be classed in a group of Urantia humanoid beings that are just beginning the ascension plan. So we might be grouped in thousands or hundreds and hundreds of thousands. Who's to say exactly, right? It depends on what types of beings we are. Rodney, would you like to take the next one, please?
Yes. 6. Adjuster fusion series. The spiritual classification or grouping of all mortals during their prefusion experience.
Prefusion, Rodney. Yeah, before you fuse. Yeah.
Prefusion experience is wholly determined by the relation of the personality status to the indwelling mystery monitor. Almost 90% of the inhabited worlds of Nebadon are people with adjuster fusion mortals, in contrast with a nearby universe where scarcely more than 1/2 of the worlds harbor beings who are adjuster indwelt candidates for eternal fusion.
So that makes us real fortunate, doesn't it? Because 90% of the beings in our local universe are just infusion mortals. But there's other local universes where just more than half are just infusion mortals, and the other half would be what? Spirit fusion or sun fusion mortals, right?
Hmm.
But remember, the only ones that are guaranteed to do the ascension plan to paradise are what? The adjuster fusion mortals. Okay. So that makes us real fortunate if that's the case.
So in the future, when we have conquered space travel, can we go over these planets and go nah 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 nah?
Yeah, but I don't think we'd do that.
That's not
Well,
spiritual.
Not very
maybe
spiritual. Yeah. Yeah.
now, the more advanced ones may be doing that to us now.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe. Okay. Techniques of terrestrial escape. There is fundamentally only one way in which individual human life can be initiated on the inhabited worlds, and that is through creature procreation and natural birth. But there are numerous techniques whereby man escapes his terrestrial status and gains access to the inward moving stream of paradise ascenders. So there's really only one way to be born, but there's several ways on different planets which you can escape the planet and die and go on to gain the status of a Urantia ascender. Okay.
So you're saying that like test tube babies are not human?
Yeah, there is no test tube babies in the universe normally, Gary. They come, you can call them test tube babies, but in order for them to function, they have an egg and a sperm, and that is the way all mortal creatures are created, right?
And that's where we still are nowadays, even though they,
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
so
right.
there's pretty no test tube babies. So I was all wet.
Yeah, not really. Technically, probably you could start life in a test tube. They do it with, implanting sperm into eggs and stuff, but they always do what? They put them back into a human host, right?
Roger,
Yeah.
I saw a real short video the other day, which is really interesting. They discovered that at the very moment that a sperm enters an egg, there's a flash of light.
Isn't that interesting?
Isn't that interesting?
Spark of life. They talked about that, that even the people the beings that implant life cannot give it that spark of life. Only who does?
The Holy Spirit.
The local universe mother spirit, right? That's who gives it the spark of life. Now it's interesting, we talked about there being no test tube babies. Now they may reproduce on other planets in something like a test tube baby, but they still have to have the combination of the male and female, which comes together. So if you called it, I guess you could call it a test tube baby, but it's really not. It's the DNA from both a male and female species, right?
Mm-hmm.
So still
That's
makes it.
It's no test tube baby. It's basically it's human or
Yeah, it's human created life that is
It-
hosted in something other than a female vehicle, if you want to say it that way. Okay, let's go into terrestrial escape, Diane.
6. Terrestrial escape. All of the differing physical types and planetary series of mortals alike enjoy the ministry of thought adjusters, guardian angels, and the various orders of the messenger host of the infinite spirit. All alike are liberated from the bonds of flesh by the emancipation of natural death, and all alike go thence to the Urantia worlds of spiritual evolution and mind progress.
Okay, let me tell you how important death is.
death.
Death.
Right there.
Does that make sense? Death.
Mhm.
Let me tell you how important death is. Death is so important that every single creator son, all 700,000 of them, of every local universe has to experience the experience of death before they earn full sovereignty of their local universe. Think about that. Think that's important?
Yeah. Man.
I think, in other words, all 700,000 creator sons must go through the same experience we do, and that's dying. We live, we die, and then we go on to the Urantia worlds. What did Jesus do as soon as he died? Went on to the Urantia worlds, didn't he? He came back to this world, Urantia form, but he went through the Urantia experience just like he went through the mortal experience, didn't he?
Yeah.
You think it's important for us to go through these steps? You think it's fair or valuable or anything else for us to skip over this death? No, because it's an experience that all the creator sons also have to go through, right?
So it's obviously not a punishment.
It's not a punishment, it's experience. It adds our experience to the supreme. Now, I'm going to give you all a concept that I don't want you to miss tonight, so I'm going to say it very directly. If you fuse with your adjuster in this lifetime, you with me?
Mm-hmm.
You skip over the physical dying experience of the body, but you still experience the dying experience of a mortal. You with me?
So you go through the 3 days that, like Jesus said, in 3 days I'll re-resurrect this temple.
Yes, but the difference is this. The difference is this. If you fuse with the adjuster, it's not your guardian angel that takes you on to the normal path. Your guardian angel still functions as she always does, but your thought adjuster releases your personality because of the fusion with that personality immediately. So you travel to the mansion worlds with the adjuster, your personality. Okay. You're immediately released. Now, the question is this: are you conscious during this period of time? I don't know. They don't tell us. Because that adjuster leaves this planet, goes to the Father like he always does, gets an approval, and goes back to the mansion world, and you get your Urantia investiture just like everybody else does. The difference is you were released from the physical mortal estate immediately because of the fusion. But you still experience what? Death. Right. You can't skip over it. But your terrestrial, this is what they're talking about in these paragraphs. Your terrestrial escape from the planet is what? It's different.
Yes.
It's different. It's death, but it's different leaving the planet with your guardian angel than it is leaving the planet as a fused mortal being. And when you wake up, your consciousness will come back from the thought adjuster because that's who it left with. Okay. So this would be your different terrestrial escape, but your experience of death would be what? The same as if you just died. Okay. Now, let me give you an example of this since it's so close. Tomorrow, I have to go in for a heart catheterization. If they put me under and I die during that period of time, okay, when I went in for the operation, I was a conscious being, was I not?
Mm-hmm.
I knew what I was doing. I agreed for this procedure. So they'll come in and they'll put me to sleep and they'll work on my heart. Now, something goes wrong and I die. When I wake up in the mansion world, what will my experience of death be? It will be the same as if I died and had a heart attack and knew I was dying right then and there, right? Because I agreed to the procedure. I go into the procedure, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm putting my health into the hands of the doctor. I have to trust somebody, right? So if I was to wake up on the mansion world and I say, huh, I guess that didn't go so well, it's because I'm here instead of there, right? But I still experience what? Death. Okay, there's no way around it. You have to experience it one way or another, whether it was going out quietly or whether it was terrible, like when we had the car accident last year. You know, I thought I was dying then. It was a terrible experience. I stopped breathing. You know, I thought, well, this is it. I'm gone. But the difference is I was what? I was brought back to life from the paramedics and all that stuff. But the experience of that will always stay with me. Well, just like my wife, always stay with her because I experienced it. The same thing if I go into the doctor tomorrow and they do my heart and something goes wrong and I leave then. I've experienced death once again, have I not?
Mhm.
It's the same thing with adjuster fusion. If you're going to fuse with your adjuster and your guardian angel notifies you that you're fixing to fuse. Okay. So it's not like, you know, God comes down and say, okay, I want you back and zip, we're going to, you know, take you. It's not that way. You are totally aware of the fact that you're going to fuse. And so they prepare you for it. The adjuster prepares you for it. The guardian angel prepares you for it. So when it happens, it's an experience of death, just like your experience of life, right? So there aren't any shortcuts, are there? When you look at it that way, everyone has to go through the same experience. And that's what the creator sons do, right? All right, let's go
Have you
on.
thought that we should be celebrating death and not mourning death?
That's right. We should be. I've always thought that, you know, it's the hardest thing for me ever. You know, every funeral I've ever been to, I cannot bring myself to weep or cry. Okay. No matter how much I love somebody and how much I'm going to miss them, I can't help but be happy for them because they're what? They're going on to the new experience. They're going on to the mansion worlds. They're going on for what this life is about. They've done their first step. They're ready for the next one. Right. So it's like you said, Gary, it should be a joyous experience. We shouldn't be crying. We should be celebrating, right? Look at the way they do it in New Orleans. You know, what do? They, you know, sing and dance down the street and celebrate, right? That's the way it
Mhm.
should be. All right. Who's next? Gary, I think you're back up again. Did you just read them?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. From time to time, on motion of the planetary authorities or the system rulers, special resurrection
Resurrections. Yeah.
of the sleeping survivors are conducted. Such resurrections occur at least every millennium of planetary time, when not all but many of those who sleep in the dust awake. These special resurrections are the occasion for mobilizing special groups of ascenders for special service in the local universe plan of mortal ascension. There are both practical reasons and sentimental associations connected with these special resurrections.
So there's many reasons that these special resurrections can happen, but if there's not one happening soon, every 1,000 years or a millennium of time, every 1,000 years they resurrect the sleeping survivors, right? The sleeping survivors are stored in what? The guardian seraphim. They don't pop out of the ground from the grave. You know, you're not going to see them coming up from their grave. You're not going to see them leaving in the car, going on down the street. It's nothing like that, right? These beings have been dead and their essence is stored in the guardian angels. So these guardian angels show up in the resurrections halls and they are revived in mass association at the same time, so that these ascenders would be assigned to special groups for special service doing individual things, right? So this would be a special resurrection, just like they had for Adam and Eve, right? And all their beings. Okay. Jane, you're next.
Hmm. Throughout the earlier ages of an inhabited world, many are called to dimension spheres at the special and the millennial resurrections, but most survivors are repersonalized at the inauguration of a new dispensation associated with the advent of a divine son of planetary service.
And that's exactly what happened with when Jesus said to call my sleeping children, right? Above, when he was above the tomb, he did what? They had a resurrection of the sleeping survivors. And those were the beings that had slept since the last resurrection during Adam and Eve's time. So that's a lot, that's 37,000 years. That's a lot of beings.
I
Now,
thought it was every 1,000 years.
it is every 1,000 years after the spirit of truth gets poured out on the planet. Okay. So ever since then, we should have had at least 2, maybe 3 resurrections since the time of Christ, right? Every 1,000 years. So there's probably been at least 2. Okay. All right. Rodney, would you take the next?
Yes. 1. Mortals of the dispensational or group order of survival. With the arrival of the first adjuster on an inhabited world, the guardian seraphim also make their appearance. They are indispensable to terrestrial escape. Throughout the life lapse period of the sleeping survivors, the spiritual values and eternal realities of their newly evolved and immortal souls are held as a sacred trust by the personal or by the group guardian seraphim.
Now, don't you think that's pretty important? Because the guardian seraphim has in trust what? Your soul. You see that? So when God the Father's thought adjuster comes back to the mansion worlds to reunite your personality with your new Urantia body, who brings the soul?
Seraphim.
The seraphim. That's right. So all these values you've been building up are held in the trust of the seraphim. Yeah, Rodney. Yeah.
When Lucifer rebelled, do you know, did any guardian seraphim rebel?
They did. There's over 100,000 off this planet rebelled.
So
well over 100.
With the souls,
their souls were taken by the archangels
okay,
and held in trust until those mortals were revived on the mansion worlds.
okay.
That is why there's always a guardian seraphim and an archangel there on your revival. The archangel guarantees your soul or your memory patterns are the right ones to put back in you. So
Wow.
they're your trust. They hold everything in trust in case of just what happened on this planet, just in case a rebellion or something like that. Soon as that archangel, those guardian angels rebel, the archangels remove the soul trust from that archangel. I don't think they have a choice. It's probably they're forced to give them up. You know what I'm saying? That's why everything is done in duplicates, right? So all the spiritual values of that mortal's life is held within that soul, right? Because the thought adjuster has been building it up during that life. It's a great system, works well. The group guardians of assignment to the sleeping survivors always function with the judgment sons of the world advance. He shall send his angels and they shall gather together in his elect from the 4 winds, with each seraphim of assignment to the repersonalization of a sleeping assignment. Oh, hang on.
Even more.
Being mortal. I lost my place here. Their function is the returned adjuster. The same immortal father fragment that lived in him during the days of the flesh, and thus is identity restored and personality resurrected. During the sleep of their subjects, these waiting adjusters serve on divinity. They never indwell another mortal mind in this interim. So while they're waiting for you to be repersonalized, doesn't matter if it's 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years, they still are not reassigned to another individual, and as long as you are a candidate for repersonalization. Okay, so they don't get reassigned and they go off with your memories to somebody else. All right, Diane.
Well,
While the older worlds of mortal existence harbor those highly developed and exquisitely spiritual types of human beings who are virtually exempt from the Urantia life, the earlier ages of the animal origin races are characterized by primitive mortals who are so immature that fusion with their adjuster is impossible. The reawakening of these mortals is accomplished by the guardian seraphim in conjunction with an individualized portion of the immortal spirit of the third source and center.
So the world like we have, okay, all the barbarians that came before Calagasta and all these other beings, okay, were primitive mortals, and they're too immature to fuse with their adjusters, right? So they can't be reawakened on the mansion worlds because they will never fuse with the adjusters. So in order for them to be repersonalized, they have to be fused with a fusion of a spirit of the third source and center, or a spirit fragment. Okay, for these immature beings that will never be able to fuse. Okay,
like children.
huh?
That'd be like children that are not evolved.
They would, yeah, children would fit. No, children normally, if they come from an adjuster fusion world, they normally are given adjusters when they get the age on the worlds of the nursery worlds. Yeah, yeah, but
So-
yeah.
So they're so the primitive beings they fuse with the local mother spirit.
Yeah, it's a fragment from the local mother spirit, and they usually stay locally in the local universe. Okay?
So
They become the permanent citizens of Nebadon.
conscious beings again,
Yeah, they are.
but they do not go through the mansion worlds.
Yeah, they can go through the mansion worlds and all that. It's just they're fused with spirit
Not the
fragments.
ascension.
Yeah, not the
So-
ascension. They don't go past the local universe. So they would go through all the mansion worlds, the 570 variations. They would get all the way up to the capital of the local universe, but they would never get to the point where they could go on as a spirit.
I
They would
understand.
always stay Urantia beings.
Animal origins race or character.
Huh?
Okay, we're talking about the people that we're talking about Adon and Fanta, or possibly before Adon and Fanta.
Yes, before, well, no, not before Andon and Fanta, but after, between Andon and Fanta to the arrival of the planetary prince. That would be the most likely period of time for us.
And that
Okay.
planetary prince would be
Calagasta.
oh, okay.
500,000 years after the first human. Well, 497,000 years.
That's a lot of people, you know that.
Yeah, quite a bit. Quite a few. And then after the arrival of the planetary prince, what happened? What's the difference? Because the planetary prince brings 100 mortals that have been trained in the mansion worlds. They come back to a planet, they volunteer, and because the 100 beings come to this planet, they train the barbarians in spiritual concepts and things, so they raise them up to the point where they're ready for a thought adjuster. Okay. And when they get it to that point, some of them receive thought adjusters, some don't, because they don't ever get to the level where they can understand that, you know. Think of it this way. Think of Jesus when he chose the apostles. Okay. The apostles were fishermen. They were Jews, but they were fishermen. They'd been trained in the synagogues and stuff like that. But their concepts of religious thought and spiritual things was very limited. Okay. So Jesus comes along. He just can't go with his apostles and explain to them, well, there's 7 mansion worlds, there's 570 different Urantia things. You know, it's such and such and such, takes millions of years to get through this, and then you become a spiritual being, and then you have multiple levels of being a spiritual being. Eventually you get to Uversa, and then eventually you get to Havona, and eventually you stand before God. You think if Jesus told the apostles about all this, they would understand a single thing they were saying? No, not likely, is it? Right?
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Are we smarter than the apostles or equal to?
Oh,
Just,
yeah.
just because of the period of time we live in, and our DNA has evolved over the last 2,000 years, Gary. That's the
So we
only
are
reason.
probably smarter than them.
Yes,
Oh,
I would say
I've
so,
often
probably.
wondered about that. I mean, you know, I have some friends that's got real high IQs, and some of them flaunt their IQs.
Right.
And I'm not a high IQ person. I've demonstrated that several times, I believe. But anyway, I don't believe in IQ because I've dealt with these people and they're not smarter than me.
Well, they might be smarter book-wise, but they may not be smarter spiritualized wise,
I'll
Gary,
go.
because look at it this way. If people were really intelligent, okay, I'm just saying it, the generality here. If people were intelligent in this day and age, what is keeping them from coming to this revelation in groves, right?
Oh, I can tell you that. Ego, lack of curiosity, laziness.
Lack of spiritual lives, you know?
Yeah, in a sense.
I ask y'all this. If you are truly a child of God and you love God the Father, would it not be important to you to find out as much as you possibly can about God the Father, the Son,
exactly.
the Spirit? Would it not be
Right.
the most important thing you do to find out about the life of Christ, your own creator?
Yes.
Yeah,
Wouldn't you think common sense would tell you that?
we're living in a physical world with an economic system based on materialism, which is being taught to us in lieu of spiritual values.
Listen,
and there is a major portion, I believe, of
you don't have to tell me. We do these meetings, and I see on some of these meetings in the past, we have 6, 7 views, of the meetings after all this time. And yet you go out to some of these brain dead videos of things that are so unimportant, it's pathetic, and they have thousands and thousands and thousands of views. So what's the problem? Is it me?
You're talking about our views,
Our views. Yeah, our views. Not that I'm important. What's important is the content. That's what I'm saying. What I say has no meaning. Okay. What I say that is important is from the book. Okay. All the rest of it's my interpretation of the book, but because it's the book itself, just like the views on, how I started reading the Urantia book, reading, the different papers, we're getting more views on that than we are on our meetings, at least, so there is interest out there. And that's what I've been trying to figure out, how to bring this book out for years and years and years. And that seems to be one way to do it. But even that, when I look at some of these old movies and stuff like that out there on YouTube and places like that, and you see 200,000 views of something that has no spiritual meaning, no value whatsoever, it makes me sick. It really does. It makes me feel like sometimes that we're wasting our time, but I know that in the future, maybe these things will come out and people will use these videos or use the book to improve their life. And that was the point of all this, you know, because if not, let me put it this way. If not, when I look back from the mansion worlds and look at my life, it's a wasted life, you know? And that's not something that I want to admit to, you know? So hopefully this has not been a waste to do all this, because hopefully people will benefit from it. But, you know, when people ask me why you have 30 views of a something that is so important, I don't know, you know. And other things we have had larger numbers of views. Some of the things we presented, we have had, you know, at least a few hundred. But you would think because this is so important, you'd have hundreds of thousands of views of the stuff on just the book, not me, right?
Yeah, I think you give you a perspective. If you consider our viewership, participants are churchgoers, compare them to a churchgoers,
Yeah.
many of these churches are doing as well as that.
Yes.
Church I originally came from, I'm not even
Mhm.
sure be around much longer. They would love to have our following.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if you
Well,
think
it's hard to tell, Gary, too, because our views come from so many different things. We get views from Facebook, we get views from Vimeo, we get views from YouTube, and they're not aggregated all together. You know, the most views we get is probably from YouTube, because YouTube is the most popular right now, right? But I didn't mean to get off when we're out of time already.
but you got to realize one thing. This is the future religion of the world.
This is the most important thing that's ever hit this planet. That's what I know. I know that for a fact, you know. So
Uh,
look at this.
Two of them.
Got two of them. All right, well, let's say a little prayer and then we'll stop the video for tonight. And I hope and pray I'll be back to see y'all Thursday. You know, let's say a little prayer and we'll quit. I'll just pray tonight. Thank you, Father, for this wonderful revelation. Thank you for being with us all these years and on these videos and helping us understand. We thank you for the opportunity to do this. We thank you for those who come and listen. We pray that it would bless their lives and make their lives more fulfilling, ready for the mansion worlds. Rachel, watch over all of us in our trek through life, and be with me tomorrow. You know what I got coming up. So be with my wife. She might carry on regardless what happens. We thank you. We give you the praise and your son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
Amen.
And thank you all at Facebook for coming to see us. I'm going to stop the Facebook first, stop this recording, and stop the other one over here.